welcome to the newest episode of Capital Combat. The name says it all. I'm Hakeem Branch.
Rob Jarrell.
And today we're going to recap the Floyd Mayweather-Saul Alvarez fight from last night, September 14th. And then we're going to preview UFC 165, which features John Jones defending his light heavyweight title against Alexander Gustafsson. Let's start with Floyd Mayweather-Saul Alvarez. Take it away, Rob.
Alright, so the outcome of this match was almost exactly what we predicted. While it didn't end a knockout, it was a 12-round decimation by Floyd Mayweather Jr. over Canelo Alvarez. I mean, it was a clinic. For the boxing purists out here who lives by hit and not get hit, you were in for a treat with this match. I mean, Floyd, in the words of Stephen A. Smith, and I hate to quote him, is a boxing magician. This man just schooled Canelo for 12 rounds, for 36 minutes. I mean, it was beautiful. And not only that, the one thing that we did not expect is that Floyd Mayweather was the aggressor. We were expecting him to counterpunch and to work off his lead right hand. And instead, he was actually walking Canelo down, leading with his jab. A nice stiff jab, which actually just knocked Canelo's head back every time it landed. And it discouraged Canelo from even trading with Mayweather because he was so quick and he found his range early. He even stepped into Canelo's wheelhouse where Canelo usually operates with his combination punching. And there was nothing that Canelo could do. I mean, it was, by the 6th round, it was over. Canelo just looked out of the fight. He even tried to step on the gas, but even that was eventually nullified by the timing, the speed, and the technique of Floyd Mayweather Jr.
Yeah, if you guys watched our technical toolbox video, he threw the jab exactly the way we taught you on that video. If you haven't, check it out. We explained it to you. That's the first thing. If you did watch this fight, I hope you took notes, because like Rob said, it was a boxing masterclass. Class was in session. Mayweather was a professor. Canelo, I'm sure he learned a boatload from that butt whooping he took. So all is not lost for Canelo. He's only 23 years old. He hasn't really even reached his physical prime yet. So this is probably going to be an outstanding learning experience for him, to see what it's like to be in there with the best of this generation, what he needs to do to become the best of the next generation and to become the next torchbearer, because it's looking like he is going to be that torchbearer. I mean, in his last fight, he brought 40,000 fans to the arena. This fight, the crowd was majority of Canelo fans. He is the biggest boxing star in Mexico. And that's saying a lot with the son of Julio Cesar Chavez also being a pro boxer. He's bigger than him. So Alvarez has a lot. He really has nowhere to go but up from here. Mayweather won't be fighting long. He'll be retiring soon. Canelo Alvarez is probably going to be the next golden boy. There are fighters that may be better than him, but there aren't any fighters that sell like him. So that's why he's going to be that next guy that we're going to be watching the pay-per-views of. And even if he doesn't win them all, he'll always be in the conversation. He'll always make for exciting fights. Even though in this fight, Mayweather totally took him to school and he did get frustrated at points, but he never stopped trying. He was throwing combinations all the way up to the 12th round. He was trying to work that game plan. He even sat on the ropes in a couple of rounds trying to bait Mayweather in to counter himself. It's just that he learned on this night that there's a difference between his skill level and Mayweather's skill level. And basically, we all saw it that night, except for one of the judges.
And see, that's one of the things that we talked about in our last video when we talked about this fight, was a controversy that may exist with this fight. And again, Floyd Mayweather Jr., in our opinion, whitewashed him. I mean, to us, we were very hard pressed to give him more than one round. that being the 8th round.
Yeah, 8th round.
About the time that Canelo tried to step on the gas, I would say even Mayweather even took a round off, but that's about it. And to give you a comparison before we go into the scores, ESPN, Showtime, and the 2 websites that we normally go to, Fight Hype, Boxing Talk, and I'll even add in BoxingScene.com. They all had it a complete domination. If they didn't give a shutout, it was maybe only 1 round, 2 at the very most.
Yeah.
But this night, we saw scores of 117, 111.
It's 9 rounds to 3.
116 to 112.
8 rounds to 4.
And 114 to 114, man.
A draw. A draw.
Now this card, this abomination of a score.
A draw. Just let that sink in. One judge thought that this fight was even. One judge thought that Canelo Alvarez did just as much work as Floyd Mayweather.
I didn't see it that way. I saw great ring generalship. I saw effective aggression, great power punches, technique. I mean, Mayweather put it all out there. And CJ Ross, this lady found enough of whatever work that Canelo put in to render a draw, a 114 to 114 score.
I think she went to the bathroom halfway through.
Or fell asleep.
Something.
But to give you a little background history, and maybe not as controversial to either one of us, she was one of the judges that actually scored Tim Bradley to a winning decision versus Manny Pacquiao. Now, we thought Manny Pacquiao won, but it was close in our eyes.
Yeah, just to play devil's advocate, there was another judge that scored that fight for Tim Bradley. And like Rob said, we thought that that fight was a lot closer than what the commentators and the crowd alluded to. Because the crowd was very pro-Manny, the commentators were completely pro-Manny.
Can't listen to them.
Yeah, just for a side note, like there was one section in the 7th round where Tim Bradley went to work for a good 2.5 minutes, and they said nothing. And then the first time Manny Pacquiao threw a punch, they just, oh my God, he's the greatest ever, blah, 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 blah. And they forgot about the 2.5 minutes of work that Tim Bradley did. Exactly. So, with that one, I could see, you know, I could side with you on that one. But this one, no, can't see it.
She was already walking a thin line there, and she won't have a job tomorrow.
Yeah, most people even disagree with us about the Tim Bradley-Manny Pacquiao fight. So, I mean, but I think this one here, this one, I think everyone was in agreement that this was the very definition of a dominant performance. Outside of a knockdown or a stoppage, this was about as dominant as you could be. I mean, Canelo was frustrated. He started resorting to fouling. Shouts to him for not falling into the trap again of like Victor Ortiz did and just losing his cool completely. He went right back into fighting mode because he knows that Mayweather will take advantage of any opportunity that if you slip in that ring, he'll make you pay. And he didn't. So that shows that he is very composed. But yeah, back to what we were saying. This fight was as one-sided as it could be. And for the judges to score it, well, the one judge that scored a draw, I mean, that is a complete head scratch. I mean, even the crowd, which was pro Canelo, was like, are you serious? Like, what were you watching? Like, I mean, they hated Mayweather with a passion. I mean, even when they started chanting USA and Floyd, 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 they just started booing the whole, I mean, they drowned them completely out. But when they said it was a draw, they were like, that's not true. We saw our man get beat. You can't fool us. So, I mean, like Rob said, if this judge gets another job, I myself, if I was a fighter, I would protest on the spot. As soon as they say, "Oh, Judge C.J. Ross," no, I'm not fighting. You got to change that judge. There's no way I will let that judge my fight. But if you knock him out, it doesn't matter.
Now, I will point out one thing, and you've noticed it. we watched the weigh-in that occurred on Friday, the night before the fight. Mayweather always comes in supremely conditioned. I mean, he looked solid, he looked ripped. He actually looked ready to go that night. I mean, he just looked phenomenal, in phenomenal shape for the fight. Canelo, on the other hand, everyone said he looked ripped, but I think those 2 pounds did take a toll on him because it was a catchweight fight at 152. He normally fights at 154, and he will rehydrate up close to 170. Those extra 2 pounds may have made the difference because when he came into the ring, he wasn't sweating. And when you want to go into a ring, you want to have a sweat, you want to be warmed up, and he was not sweating, which means he was still dehydrated or drained from the week up until the weigh-in and the fight. And even then, while people say he looked ripped, I didn't think he looked solid. Mayweather, who weighed 1.5 pounds less, looked more solid than Canelo did. I mean, he looked kind of rubbery, kind of had a gaunt face, and it just looked like the losing the weight took a toll on him over the course of his training camp, which may have taken a lot out of him during the fight. I mean, he looked very tentative to even return fire because he took 3, 4, 5 jabs to the face and still wouldn't throw back. And he's naturally a combination puncher, so he's going to reel off as many punches as he can. And not only that, even showing in the Austin Trout fight, he showed better defense in which he could return fire with a long jab or a right hand, which was kind of impressive. Not in this Mayweather fight. He just looked exhausted by the second half of the fight, and they may take a toll on his body. He may want to move up to 160 in the next few years before he starts to not being able to make 154 in a healthy manner.
Yeah. And in all fairness to Floyd Mayweather, he's no Austin Trout. Well, I should say that the opposite. Austin Trout is no Floyd Mayweather.
Exactly.
So, you know, being in the ring with that big of a step up, you know, sometimes, like, the hand speed of Floyd Mayweather is leaps and bounds better than Austin Trout. His accuracy is much better. So maybe Canelo couldn't, you know, just couldn't adjust to that. But I think the weight did have a lot to do with it. It looked like he was saving himself for the later rounds because he knew he didn't really trust his stamina. And he started to turn it up around the late rounds, trying to really reel his combinations off, but it was just too little too late. Mm-hmm. And we hope that that extra weight cut doesn't hurt him in the long run, like Rob said, and he can return to form later on in his next fight, because it's nothing but big fights for him after this.
That's right.
He'll probably get he might get Carlos Molina, who won on the undercard, and be right back in the title picture. Mayweather probably will not stay at 154.
Doubtful.
He'll probably drop back down. He can get those belts back. Maybe build himself up to maybe market himself for a rematch. Now, if we see him, you know, destroy a few more opponents, maybe take out some big name guys, and show the improvement that he had been showing up to this point, a rematch could be sold. So that's something to look out for.
But there is a lot of talent coming up in the 154 division. I mean, these guys have somewhere between 13 to 20 fights, and they look good. I'm going to be honest. These are guys that Canelo's going to be able to fight for at least the next 3 or 4 years to build his legacy up and further establish his championship pedigree. So, I mean, Canelo took a big step up. He was just in there with the best of this generation right now. And we'll see where he goes from this point forward, and we'll definitely be excited to watch.
All right, guys. This breakdown went a little long, so what we're going to do is we're going to give you another video for the UFC preview. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you like this video, subscribe on our YouTube channel, and share it with all of your friends, because, you know, everybody watched the fight and they can check out the breakdown as well. Then they'll want to see more breakdown videos, and that's how we grow. It's all up to you. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. Peace.
This is round 1 and you've already lost. They don't seem to see that Everything we done is company cause. My fists are on fire. I perform till I perspire. My demons are in a rage. Keep thinking that it's a game. I kick crime, hurricane. I told them I don't play. I'm liquid.
Black Street Fighter.